Welcome to this week's edition of Fun Activities in 5, where we are taking an activity that is either well known or you haven't heard of, and we're going to walk you through how we do it in my classroom. This week is a strange one when it comes to the fun part of the Fun Activities in 5, but for some reason my students, especially this year, I'm now teaching high school again, but my students this year have latched on to this activity and really enjoy it. So we are going to be talking about a dictado today. If you don't teach Spanish, it may be called something else in your target language or how it's referred to, but in the Spanish world of teaching, we refer to this as a dictado. Essentially, you don't need any prep for this activity other than typing out the sentence that you want to say on a slide. If you don't have time for that kind of prep, if you're just like, hey, I've got 10 minutes left, we're going to do a dictado, you could always write it on the board after you do it, because the purpose of a dictado is that students are able to check their work. So essentially what a dictado is the teacher says something out loud, like, I like to eat pizza. And all they do is say it. I usually end up saying it 5 or 6 times. You could limit that as your students get used to it, or you could just commit to the bit and do it as many times as you need to. I don't mind saying it many times because my students have gotten to where they really, really want to hear how the words are spoken, how they sound, what the sentence feels like, because they really want to be with it before they check their answer. So I like pizza. As I say I like pizza, my students are writing on their paper, I like pizza. They are not translating it. They are not putting it in a different form. They are not doing anything other than writing exactly what they hear. So if I was doing this with MLL students, I would say, I like pizza. On their paper, I like pizza, to the best of their ability. Spelling, punctuation, capitalization, the whole nine. Once my students are ready, and I will ask them, like, are we ready? Listos. And if they say yes, I take the sentence and I put it up on my screen. I pre-type mine so they're in slides. So I put them up on my screen and it looks a little something like this. And I go over that sentence again. I like pizza. They check what is written on their paper. So if they have written, I don't know, I likes pizzas, then they would correct. I don't ask my students to correct, but my students are really into correcting their sentences, so just go with it. And they go over and see it. Now, sometimes students will be like, hey, I've never heard the word likes before. Can you say that again? Yeah, likes, or like, if you're, I like pizza. And I'll say it again. Sometimes, because I am doing this in the target language, I'll be like, oh, I like pizza. They'll be like, what's pizza? I've never heard of pizza. Because occasionally I do put words in there that they haven't explicitly been taught in class, but maybe they've seen in a reading or something we've done, or a listening activity, or it's a cognate, or it's a really familiar word, or background knowledge. Sometimes I'll throw those words in there just to see how they do. I do warn my students before I do that and say, hey, in sentence number 1, there's going to be a word that you might not have heard before. It's okay. Do the best you can. And they'll be like, what's pizza, miss? Oh, pizza is this food that you eat. It's bread and sauce and cheese, and sometimes you put stuff on top of it. Like, it's a really popular food, for example. So I will go over some new words at the end. But what Dictado has ended up really thriving with in my classroom is I try to give it some kind of underlying purpose, whether it's a question and an answer. What do you like to eat? Sentence number 2, I like to eat pizza, so that they can start to see those patterns and forms of things like questions and answers. Or I did one a couple weeks ago that was tips and tricks to be successful in class, like, I will attentively listen, I will turn my work in on time, those kinds of things. And then we go over them and I'm like, hey, now you have a list of 6 things you can do to help you be successful in this class this semester. So you can make your dictado as purposeful or as not as you would like, but it's a really good way for students to practice things like accent marks and capitalization and punctuation and the way words are spelled in a way that is not just drill. It can be done in as little as 5 minutes. You could do 2 sentences. You could do 10 sentences. I wouldn't recommend 10. I usually do 6. But if you've ever done a dictado, I would love to hear how you do it in your room and what makes it go well, what your students like about it. And if you haven't, I hope you give it a try. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.